Hi everyone, welcome back to OC Aviary for episode 9 of Breeding British Birds. I'm Oliver, and in today's video we're going to take a look at how the feeder canaries have saved the lives of some of our native birds. We've got a bit of a disaster to share with you with a couple of birds as well, and finally we've got some exciting news with some of our top pairs of green finches. So we're going to start off today's episode with the European linnets. Now these are birds that I've never bred before. It's my first time having them in the breeding season, so it's a real learning experience for me. So they're down here in this aluminium flight cage. It's 3 foot wide, 3 foot high and 2 feet deep. So it's a fair sized cage for them in my opinion. Now we introduced a new nest site a few weeks ago after seeing that they weren't really interested, and that has worked for us. The pair have built up with a bit of sisal, a bit of jute and a little bit of kapok fibre, and they've built a lovely little nest in there. Now there's 2 eggs in that nest. She laid a 3rd egg but laid it off the perch, which is quite frustrating, but that's birds, it happens. So that's sort of where we're at the moment. Now she's been showing signs of sitting. It is a young hen, so don't forget that. But she hasn't really been fully sitting like you would expect a bird to. So I'm going to keep an eye on her over the weekend, give her a few days to see if she just starts sitting, because I think she needs to learn. If she doesn't, we do have some canaries going down at the same point and some red poles, so we can float the eggs under something else if need be. But really good news so far is that we've got something from the linnets finally at the start of June. So I said at the start of this video that we've got some good news with some of our top pairs of greenies, and that's exactly how it's been. Finally, 9 weeks into the breeding season, we actually have some good news from them, because it seems so far it's just been a rarely drab season with them. So for the pair in flight 5, their 3 chicks have jumped the nest. We saw one had jumped last week, the other 2 were still in there. All 3 have now jumped. We've got the youngest is actually on the floor still, so I've put a big bowl of fresh water down there and the egg food so it can pick up a little bit itself, and the other 2 chicks are terrorising the parents on the perches. The pair in flight 4, this is one of my better pairs of green finches. I've been keen to breed off them all season, and we've just had clear eggs after clear eggs, and this is a cock bird I bred off last season. So I bred him 2 years ago, and the hen is a youngster I had off Shane from Direct Bird Products, and finally I can report that we've got some good news. They're on 5 full eggs, so keep your fingers crossed for me please, because I really feel that this pair has the potential to produce some really good youngsters that should hopefully do all right for me on the show bench. For the pairs in flights 3 and flight 2, it's been a different story. We've seen this season that so far they've had clear eggs, they've had nests that have just failed, and it's been really discouraging and very frustrating with them. So what I've decided to do is to try and increase fertility. I think that the birds might be a little bit overweight, whether it be the cockbirds or just the hens. It might be something like that. So what I've done is I've took down the feeding stations. So these are external baths that I hang on the inside of the flight, and I can top up with the sliding doors here. Well, I've took them off and I've put them on the floor. So it means that every time the birds want to go to feed and try and get fat, they have to fly to the floor to get it. And then it means that they've got a 4 to 5 foot basically straight up vertical flight to go through to get back onto the perches, which should mean that they're exercising a lot more and they're going to try and keep that weight off them. So fingers crossed that will work for us. For the pairs of green finches in the bird room, they've actually been getting on somewhat better than those outside. So we've got a hen here. She is on 4 full eggs. She hatched a couple of chicks last time round. We ended up fostering them because one of them died and she was left with one that she wasn't interested in feeding. But they're due in episode 10 of the show. And behind us here in this aluminium flight cage, we saw last week the hen had some chicks due. Well, they hatched last weekend and I've now rung those 2 chicks, and they're doing absolutely fantastic. The parents are doing a superb job. So far it's actually been all right with the greenies. It's been picking up over the past month. Now we've got 2 youngsters weaned off in the young bird room, 3 chicks jumped the nest outside, 2 chicks being rung in here, some full eggs here, some more full eggs outside. So just hopefully it continues to go well for us with the green finches. This past week, the canaries have been absolute lifesavers for 2 reasons. So the first one is a pair of Razzas Canaries down here. They're an older pair. I've had them for 2 years and they've worked really well for me in the past, feeding both their own chicks and young natives. And that's exactly what they've done. We had 4 red poll eggs that were abandoned by the parents. One of them turned out to be full and it hatched at the weekend under the Razzas. We also had the linnet mule pair on 4 eggs. 3 of them were full and the linnet cockbird smashed them all up except one, which I managed to save. That egg also hatched under the Razzas at the weekend, and I've now rung both of those chicks and they're doing superb. So one little lesser red poll chick, one linnet mule chick, which is done with a red factor canary as well, and they're doing a superb job. Now those chicks were very small when they hatched, and I think what's really worked well for me, and it has done in the past as well, is using a small breed of canary to feed a small species of native finch. Seems to work better than using a larger breed like perhaps a frill canary, a new colour, even some of the larger crossbreds that we've got. Because I think the parents have smaller beaks, the Razzas, than would something larger, and they also have patience with smaller chicks than would something that's of a larger breed. So that's the first thing, is that they saved the life of those 2 chicks that otherwise wouldn't have even been able to make it without them. The second reason that the canaries have been lifesavers this past week is because originally there was a pair of frill canaries in this cage. We had a white cockbird with a clear yellow hen, and everything was going all right with them. They reared as 3 chicks in the first round. Those chicks are in the young bird room. She was then sat on 4 of her own eggs and 2 siskin mule eggs until 3 days ago. I came in and she was dead on the nest for no apparent reason. I felt her, she got enough weight to her, she wasn't egg bound. There was nothing that I could point my finger to saying that this is why she died. Anyway, the eggs had gone cold, but they weren't stone cold, and I don't think she died too long before I'd found her. So I immediately got those eggs, and thankfully I had a pair of new colour canaries sat on pot eggs because their eggs were clear, ready to go. So they've gone under a pair of brown agate opals, or brown opal canaries, and they're due in a few days time, so I'm really hopeful that the chicks are still alive, the eggs have revived, and they will be okay. But we'll see what happens. It will be next week's episode by the time we found out, but I'm really hoping that everything's gone all right and we've saved those eggs as well. For the rest of the canaries, they're all pretty much doing all right. We've got quite a few eggs set now. We've probably got 30 eggs set under various different pairs. So they're doing all right, and we've just had the first eggs of the second round hatch today from a different pair of frill canaries down here. The first 2 chicks have just hatched. They've got 3 more eggs due within the next 24 hours. Then we've got some more feeders due. We've got some new colours due. We've got some Razzas due. So it's all starting to kick off now over this coming weekend. Over here in the young bird room, we've had a bit of a move about with a couple of birds over the past week. So originally we had all our young yellow-based canaries in the flight cage on the top here. Now, since we've moved them out and we've moved them into the flight that's connected to this bird room, that's 5 feet long, 2 feet wide and 6 feet high. And in there we've got some bird seats on the wall and a really big sort of ladder section. I took a bit of inspiration from some budgie breeders with a few years ago, and it just means that I can store a number of birds in there. They can also sit on a perch and not have to worry about being sat next to a load of other birds getting bullied, because sometimes they do. And they've of course got those bird seats so they can sit on their own if they want to, and it just really does help keep the bullying down, and also means that they can go and sit in the sun, as you can see they're doing here, loving preening themselves, basking in the sun. And of course it's very good for health reasons as well, isn't it, for them? So they're doing absolutely excellent, and I'm really pleased how they're coming out so far. We've since moved any of the red-based birds from here into the bottom cage. Now, I've put them all on Carafill red. We was looking at maybe putting some on yellow, some on orange, the siskin mules, and then we of course need the Carafill red for like the red factors, some of the crested canaries, any red polls, bullies or anything like that that we breed will also have to go on red. I've made it easy for myself and I've put them all on red because I think it will probably give them the best colour, for one, and two is it makes it so much easier than having to faff with loads of different types of colour feed. And the reason that they're on that bottom row, it does mean that I can have the top 2 banks of cages for any white or yellow ground birds, so I don't have to worry about any little bits of chlorophyll red dropping down, them finding it, and then we having a white canary go pink, because I've had it happen before and it's not ideal, that's for sure. And then we've got the frill canaries here. Those 6 are doing really well. We've got 3 from each pair. Of course, we lost one of the hens, so it does mean that we're going to have some that are a little bit more valuable genetically than the others, because we can't breed any more of them, but they're doing really well. Their frills are coming on really nice now, so next week we'll take a closer look at them in some show cages and see how they're getting on before they start dropping all the feathers, going completely bald, and regrowing them in the moult. And we also weaned off some young canaries, or young birds, just this morning. We've got a young little crossbred canary, half Irish, half crossbreed, and we've got a green finch as well that were reared by a pair of canaries over the past few weeks. They jumped the nest about 2 weeks ago, and they're now feeding themselves, and they're doing great as well. It's been a week of 2 halves with the red polls. We've had good things and we've had bad things. So, well, let's get the bad things out of the way so we can go on to the good things. So, the bad things. The pair in this flight cage here, they had 3 youngsters jump the nest, and all looked well. Well, within 3 days of them jumping the nest, one of the chicks died, and it was clearly due to not being fed. So the parents were feeding the other 2 chicks and not that one. Obviously that was a shame, but these things do happen, and it is a young pair of birds. Fast forward a few weeks, 2-3 days ago, and I found another chick dead, and it turns out that that chick also was stopping being fed for some reason. I'd seen the 2 chicks actually starting to pick up a couple of buffaloes, a couple of pinkies, and a little bit of egg food, and I was hopeful that they'd both be alright, but clearly they couldn't rely on feeding themselves solely, and we lost the second chick, leaving us with 1 chick. That chick is now somewhere down here in the cage, looking a bit sorry for itself, and it's just not doing great, which is obviously gutting. It might pull through, I don't know. I've given it pearl morbide, and it does seem to start liking to pick that up itself, which I'm hoping will pull it through to being able to eat a lot more. And I've given it buffaloes, and it's been trying to eat them. The parents don't seem too interested in feeding it right now, which is a real shame. For this pair, they're doing all right. They're 2 chicks, a red poll chick and a Siskin mule chick. They are starting to feed themselves, which is good. The Siskin mule chick is a little bit behind on development and quite a needy bird, as you can see here, laying on top of its mother as she sat on some eggs. So I'm hopeful that they're going to be all right and do better than those. But they are current year pairs and they're not experienced. So I'm hoping with the next round at least, they'll probably do a better job. But on to the good news then, because we have honestly had some very good news this week, is that we've now got 4 pairs on eggs. We've got this hen here on 6. This hen here laid her first egg today of the second round. We've got this hen building up, being sat on the nest, no eggs yet. This pair sat on 6 eggs, all are full, and this pair at the bottom sat on 3 eggs. I need to set them still because they've been, well, they smashed the first one, so I've been a little bit hesitant. But really good news is that we've got 4 of the 8 pairs actually doing something now and breeding. For the other 4 pairs, maybe we need to make a few changes. But yeah, so really a week of 2 halves. The bullfinches have been an absolute nightmare this season, let's be honest, where they've laid 1 or 2 eggs here and there and never really showed any signs of sitting, even trying to incubate the eggs, or of course not even getting to a point where they could rear some chicks. I've had 3 eggs off in the past week, split quite a few days apart. So one of them, when it was originally laid, the first egg has gone straight under a pair of red factor canaries. The other 2 eggs are going to go under a different canary hen. So I'm hopeful we might get a young bully or 2 out before the season ends in 2 months' time. And for the twites, we've sent the DNAs off. I haven't had results back yet if our cockbird is in fact a hen. However, I've left her sat on 5 clear eggs. So I'm going to give you a bit of a spoiler. So in episode 10 of the show, which is next week's episode, I'm going to be making a few changes around here to see if we can spark something off with a number of the different pairs. So make sure you stay tuned for episode 10 next Saturday. So that is it for episode 9 of Breeding British Birds. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you want to see more from OC Avery, we've got so much planned over the summer, so loads of content for you guys, then please make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any of that. If you enjoyed it today, do smash a like on this video and make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for daily updates and behind the scenes footage of all of the birds here at OC Avery. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.